delivery. We can just, this is a truck route, we're a truck.
Right.
But if you get rid of the truck route there, I guarantee you're not gonna see any more of those. You'll still get the fun of stopping people and weighing them and finding infractions, which, by the way, is a money-losing business for the city. I mean, there is no revenue in that, right? And there's no revenue in tying up a police officer to
do the
judge,
truck inspections?
Yeah.
No, there is revenue involved.
I asked that question last time, and I think the answer was it goes to the
We're not
state.
doing it for revenue, but
No,
there's revenue
but
involved. I do write citations for those
But you will never
inspections.
pay for an extra officer with that revenue. I mean, you spent how many hours, like 100 man-hours, using 4 different police forces, and as I recall, the answer to that question was, well, the state can levy the fine, and they get the money.
Our focus, that is the safety of our community.
Okay, well, then...
What's overhauling, what's overweight, brakes, things like that. Our interest is not revenue, our interest is safety.
If that's the case, then there's no reason to have 18-wheelers, especially those who are not going anywhere except avoiding the scales, transiting between 3 schools. I mean, you mentioned the school at Sunflower, but you've got Nike, you've got parents coming, you've got teenage kids coming to pick up siblings at Nike. You've got them. You're going to have another new school. How do you justify if your interest is in protecting safety, having trucks that have no business in being in Gardner, transiting up and down Gardner Road? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Officer Huff, Brian, that I think the focus on what we're trying to say here is it's better for us to maintain and have designated routes to funnel everything to, so we can monitor, focus our attention to those areas. If we disrupt that pattern, knowing how individuals think and human nature, they are just going to go anywhere they want to, still trying to get where they want to go.
Okay.
I don't know if that.
And they'll get a local ticket, which
Councilman, I know Cheryl's been over here patiently waiting to say something. I need you to take the blinders off a little bit because there's other people that want to weigh in.
That's fine, but I'd like to hear some logical arguments, not give me a chance to use the scales and use what I've learned. I want, and not, we're here to protect and serve, but as far as the kids and the residents.
Okay. Cheryl, you had.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was going to address the issue about the revenue. When we brought the item to council, we did get asked about the revenue and what it would generate. And at the time, we were talking about basically what it would generate, not necessarily trying to have enough revenue to offset the cost of a police officer and all the expenditures that would go with that. We did not do that kind of analysis because we weren't really looking to make it pay for itself in terms of an officer, the equipment that's needed, the overhead for an officer. That's quite an expense.
So it never pays for itself.
Well, that's
I don't
not
want
the
to
point
say
of law enforcement.
that's not.
Can I
what I
follow
wanted.
up one thing?
Mayor, can I finish?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. So we looked at it as a service that we would provide, just like we look at parks as a service, and although we generate some revenue from the aquatic center, we don't look at those as enterprise funds where we're generating enough revenue to totally cover the cost. So it's kind of a policy decision on whether or not we want to provide that service or we want to have that type of enforcement in the community.
Enhance the quality of life.
Enhance, it's a quality of life. It's a quality of life.
I'm sorry, Mayor, if I can add one other thing. I think we need to be very, very cautious here where we're treading and we're throwing this word revenue around. Please understand that CVSA training is supported by the federal government through grants to the Kansas Highway Patrol. Kansas Highway Patrol within the last 2 to 3 years has routinely been pulling CVSA inspections from cities when they start hearing that word revenue. This has nothing to do with revenue. It has everything to do about safety.
Right.
And when I talked to KHP, they were very, very clear about this. If you want to send someone to be CVSA certified per reg, per Fed mandate, we're good. We hear revenue, you're out.
All right. Steve?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I'm absolutely in agreement with Cheryl in that, you know, the issue here is trying to mitigate, you know, the truck traffic, the through truck traffic specifically, and we're not trying to put an impediment on businesses. I do want to go back to signage because I think this is the root of the whole issue. I think the OTR drivers that are coming into town, it's Gardner, they don't even know that we exist, okay? I mean, for all intents and purposes, they don't know. When they get off at Gardner Road and they use the Shell station, their impulse is to go west or north, to get over to the intermodal, okay? They're not thinking about Homestead. The signage doesn't tell them, except for that one rotating sign, to go to Homestead Interchange to get over to the intermodal. Now, I heard the justification, or the, I would say, excuse from KDOT that, you know, they're using that put signage to private businesses. But if I remember correctly, on southbound I-35, before the first interchange over at exit 110, there's a sign there for Baker University to get to Baldwin City, to go to Baker University, get off at this exit. Now, if they're telling us that private businesses can't be quote-unquote advertised on signage on I-35, that's a load of bunk, because they're doing it right now. They're doing it all over the country. They're doing it in state after state after state. And this is one of those things we're going to have to talk to the Secretary of Transportation about on Friday. If that's their stance, that stance needs to change. The intermodal is not just a business. It is a regional hub of transportation. Trucks go into and out of that place routinely. And if we can't control the traffic getting off of I-35 at Gardner Road and deterring that from happening so that they can get to the most direct route, which is Homestead. It is not Gardner Road. It is not 191st Street. It is Homestead Lane. And if we can't get signage that directs them to Homestead Lane for intermodal traffic, then we lose 90% of the battle right there. That's my point.
I don't really have a question per se, but I just kind of wanted to weigh in. I was going to ask about 167th Street, but we got a good follow-up on that. So I would be in favor of not having 167th Street be a truck route because it doesn't have curbs, gutters, sidewalks. I don't think that that's the right street for trucks. And I like the idea of closing off. I would like to close off both legs on Moonlight and Gardner Road or Center Street, but I'm okay with one right now. And I do agree with Steve. I think we need better signage to alert people, especially on 191st Street. If we don't want truck traffic, I think that was one of our options. I'd like that. And then, I know we haven't mentioned it yet, but the trash, I wouldn't be in favor for having one trash hauler per city. I like the choices, yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to get that in before we ran out of time, so.
Okay, Larry, I know that your idea is to only allow truck traffic through 156, correct?
Well, I mean,
Because
well, you've only discussed one facet, which is public safety, but you still have the wear and tear on the roads.
Sure.
As was pointed out before, one 60,000-pound truck, not an 80,000-pound, but a 60,000-pound truck, is equivalent to 9,600 car trips. So regardless of whether you think eliminating Gardner Road as a truck route would increase your enforcement, it's still going to increase the cost, and there's no benefit. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about revenue. I'm not saying any police, any ticket is a revenue generator. I'm saying that you have to use the most efficient and cost-effective means to regulate these trucks. And the most cost-effective means is to eliminate Gardner Road in all areas, as well as 167, as well as Moonlight. The only valid route that I can see for trucks coming from Coleman, for instance, and delivering to the intermodal is 56 Highway. I see no other point as to why you would have any residential street when there's no benefit. That's what I'm trying to get at. It doesn't have to generate revenue, but there ought to be some benefit to the citizens of this town who live in this town, not who use it just as a transient place to work, to allow trucks at all. And I guarantee you, before the truck route was established, there were fewer trucks on Gardner Road. So I guess I don't buy your argument. But in the end, I'm going to make a prediction. And I'm going to equate this to a saying that pilots have about gear-up landings. You either have or you will. And I'm going to predict that sooner or later, there's going to be a horrific traffic accident involving an 18-wheeler. Maybe it'll be an intermodal container. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll just be a UPS truck full of boxes, a tractor-trailer, nonetheless. But, and the first thing all of us are going to do is we're going to hear from the public, and everyone's going to say that, we have to eliminate the truck route on Gardner Road and all these other places that don't have any reason to have trucks on them. And the job of a leader here is to make sure that doesn't happen before it happens. A follower is going to say after the fact, yeah, it's a good idea to eliminate 18-wheelers on Gardner Road. So I'm telling you, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. It's a ticking time bomb. So,
duly noted. Is anybody else in favor of only having 56 as the only truck route through the city?